everyone, and welcome to another show of Big League Bourbon. Tonight, our guest is Greg Litton, a former Major League Baseball player with the San Fransisco Giants and the Seattle Mariners. I'll have Greg jump in the room here in just a minute. Just wanted to give a couple shout-outs to everybody here in the chat already. Thanks for Cheech coming on by. See Bourbon up in here. Mike Franklin, hello. Tony Tuto's coming in from New York. Hey, Tony, how's it going? Got Marty and Whiskey Nose. What's going on, Marty? Haven't seen you in a while. Gary Franchi, the franchise in the house. What is up, Gary? And Tim Evans. We got Tim Evans in the house. Tim met up with Scottie Pippen today and got a bottle signed of Scottie Pippen's new Digits bourbon. That looked pretty exciting today. Can't wait to hear about it from Tim later. So here we go, guys. I'm going to bring in our guest tonight, Greg Litton. Hey, Greg, how's it going?
Great. What's happening, buddy?
Not too much. How about yourself?
Oh, not a lot. I like that backdrop you have there. A little bit better than mine.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. Thank you. So how's it going these days, man?
It's all good here. I'm in, I would say sunny Pensacola, Florida, but, man, we've been swamped with rain the last month or two. So not a lot of sun lately, but still in Florida and weather's still good.
Hey, you can't beat that. Pensacola is not a bad place. I also saw you were the announcer for the Pennsicola Blue Wahoos for a while for Quinn Schneider's team.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I did the color for about 4 or 5 years, and
okay.
I tell you, it was a lot of fun, especially being color, because I didn't have to over prepare. All I did was watch the game, and if I saw something I thought I should comment on, maybe the fans didn't notice, I would mention it. And if not, I just sat there and watched the game.
Right on. Yeah, we're excited here up in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. I live on the border, and we have the Beloit Snappers in the Midwest League. And Quint actually just purchased that team during COVID. And we have the new stadium going in from ABC Supply. So it's pretty exciting times here, having him come back to town since he's from the area and taking over the team and really giving the franchise a facelift. And from what I've seen he's done in Pensacola and what's going on there, we're really excited for it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just saw earlier on Facebook, he put something out there with the new plans. I didn't realize that's where you were at. And
yeah.
I've been blessed. I met Quint, about 20 years ago. And for the last, before he sold, he started a company called the Studer Group, healthcare consulting business. He's obviously a big baseball fan. And we met at a mutual event, and it was a roast for our local sportscaster here. And we just kind of hit it off, became friends, and I did some training with the Studer Group, and I've been fortunate, blessed to travel all around the country and speak at big conferences with Quint. So I know him very well, great man, and he's a good one to have behind that team.
Yeah, it's really exciting for this area. Like, I'm probably about 2 miles away from the new stadium, and I drive by it about every other day, and just to see the progress on it, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking forward to opening day. They're still on track for hopefully July. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But next year I'll be there. Because that's one beautiful stadium. And, when you've been around baseball your whole life, it's hard to get away from it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've seen the stadium here that he built, but you could.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. The Pensacola Bay in the background, it's right on the water. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's, man, I tell you, I never got to play in a minor league stadium like that. I can promise you.
Oh, I'm right there with you. We talk about that here on the show all the time. I have guys talk about the stadiums they played in, the good, the bad. I'll ask you the same questions. And, I've talked about quite a few different stadiums myself, whether it be Greensboro, that had the one bathroom stall that was connected to the one shower stall with, the wood wall and mildew and mold growing on it. There were some special ones out there. No air conditioning, not quite as glamorous as everybody thinks it is out there in the minors. That's for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, when I've traveled all over the country getting to speak, and that's one of the things I always talk about and ask the audience if they've seen Bull Durham. And when they answer, most of them have, I tell them that you guys don't understand that minor league baseball is a lot worse than that. That's that was kind of glamorized from what we had. And I mean, we had in Fresno, California, my first year in A-ball, we had 25 guys in the locker room, probably maybe 20 by 30 with no air conditioner. In the summertime in Fresno, it's 115 degrees at times. Oh, it was miserable, but still great. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Oh, for sure. For sure. The times that you have, they're amazing. And that definitely makes up for the conditions, I mean, we're getting to play a game for a living and having a great time. Everybody else is out working and we're playing a game and working out.
It wasn't much of a living in the minor leagues, but it was still fun.
No, but we made it good though.
Yeah.
I know that, quarter beer nights here and there around town, whatever else was going on, you did what you did to make it work for you. So you having a drink tonight?
I haven't yet. Well, I did have a glass of wine. I'm not a big wine drinker, but I typically like, and I see all your good stuff up there. I can't make out quite what everything is, but I've become a big bourbon drinker the last couple of years, and but tonight I did a little bit different. Tried a little red wine.
Right on. So you said you got into bourbon. So what was the bourbon that got you into the bourbon world?
Well, unfortunately, it's one that I can't, and nobody else can hardly find. I was at a charity event, and I went up to the bar just to get a beer. I'm a big craft beer. I love craft beers. When I was in Seattle, I got kind of turned on to craft beers. Everybody up there brewed their own beers, and I went into Seattle, a Coors Light guy. We all start off drinking light beers, and so I went into Seattle, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You can't get a light beer anywhere because everybody brews their own craft beers."
No.
Now, this is 25, 30 years ago. And so I started trying them. And once you try them, it's kind of hard to go back to light beers because they're just so much better. But anyways, I was just going up to get a beer, and a buddy of mine walked up behind me and ordered something. And I'm like, "A what?" And it was a Blanton's. And he had ordered a double Blanton's. And I'm like, what's that? I had drank, some friends of mine had kind of turned me on to Macallan Scotch. But I had never really drank any bourbon. And so he goes, "You've never had Blanton's?" He goes, and I said, "No." And so he goes, "Cancel that beer. Get him a double Blanton's on me." So I'm like, "All right, I'll try anything." And I loved it and just started trying all kinds after that because, quite frankly, you can't find Blanton's anywhere. So it's not much of a point to have that as one of your favorites when you can't find it. But I've gotten into it, and man, I love it.
That's awesome. So if you had to say you had a go-to pour or a daily pour or one, that you always have in stock around the house or you'd pick when you go to a bar, what would that be?
My favorite I keep around the house, my daily, I try not to be out of, is Michter's. Just kind of
very nice.
Yeah.
Which one?
Just the regular bourbon. I have the rye whiskey, but I like rye. I love the Angel's Envy, the finished rye. I think that's awesome. But just my daily that you can find everywhere, you can always find Michter's, and I really love it.
That's awesome. So I'm going to transition us over to baseball. As much as I love talking bourbon here, everybody loves the baseball more. So that's what I love to bring to them. So you're our first top 10 first round pick. How exciting was that, being a top 10 first round pick coming it was out of high school, correct?
Junior college.
Junior college? Okay.
Yeah, it was 1984. The money wasn't all that great, but and it's so funny. It just happened right about 2 hours ago. I turned on what I thought was going to be the College World Series, and it happened to be a 30 for 30 special with Mississippi State from 1985. Okay. And
oh yeah, that's a heck of a team right there.
Yeah, most people don't know, but I was supposed to be the shortstop on that team.
Okay.
If I hadn't signed with the Giants, I had signed to play shortstop. My father had played there in the 40s. No, not 40s. Yeah, or late 40s, and was all SEC. And that's where I really wanted to go. My best friend was on that team as well from high school, and they were arguably one of the best college teams ever. And I was
For
supposed to
sure.
play. Yeah, I was supposed to play shortstop that year. And so I got wrapped up into watching it. Then I ended up being teammates with Will Clark with the Giants, anyways. So it was, it was one of those things you're like, golly, I wanted to sign. I wanted to go to Mississippi State, but having that little first round asterisk next to your name, yeah, it was, oh man, I was torn, man. It took me about 2 weeks. I went back and forth every day, sign, go to state, sign, go to state. And that World
Right.
Series, they didn't show it, but the highlights they showed tonight in the undefeated game, it was Mississippi State playing Texas. And back
Hmm.
then, whoever won that undefeated game went straight to the finals. And then the
Right.
loser had to go play the winner of the losers bracket. The winner of that went to the finals. But the winner of that game was undefeated in the champion, and had to get beat twice. So they had a huge advantage. And Mississippi State was winning the game. I didn't remember it, but their starter Morgan was dealing and got hit in the ankle with a line drive bullet, and then just wasn't the same after that. And then they ended up getting Texas got the bases loaded in the 6th inning with no outs, and they brought in my best friend to pitch. And he gives
Oh.
up 2 ground balls to the shortstop, and the shortstop kicks both of them.
Oh.
They end up losing the game. And I've heard about this since 1985. I have been blamed for them losing for 35 years. And so at least tonight, I heard him blame, Morgan getting hit in the ankle with a line drive. So, so I feel a little bit
Yeah.
better. But yeah, I was supposed to be on that team. And so, man, just tonight's brought back all kind of memories. But I ended up signing mostly because of the little first round asterisk.
Yeah, for sure. Where did you go to junior college down there?
I played here at Pensacola Junior College.
Okay, right on, right on. So in the Florida system, lots of great players come out of that area, man. Especially at the junior college range,
Oh,
unbelievable.
we had off our
So
team, Chris. We had 2 pitchers off of that team pitch in the major leagues. We had 2 other pitchers
nice,
pitch in AAA. We had 2 other pitchers pitch in AA. We had 6 pitchers pitch AA or higher off of that team, and had
man.
3 others play professional ball, position players. I mean, for a junior college team, we were stacked. But anyways,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that had to be a fun season.
Yeah.
You guys had to be just walking through the competition left and right with the
Oh, we
staff
were.
like
Yeah.
that. Oh.
But just like that Mississippi State game, Mississippi State was
Mm-hmm.
arguably in that World Series the best team. They got beat by
Yeah.
Miami the next day. Mississippi State had 4 big league all-stars on that team. Miami
Yeah.
didn't have a single big leaguer, and they beat them. And that's what happens in baseball.
It does. It does. They're the number one junior college at the D1 level this year. I've got a player that I know very well who's going down there to school next year. And it's Wabash College. They went 52-4 this year and got knocked out the game before the championship game, and that was one of their 4 losses for the season. So on any given day, any team can rise to the top and take down, pardon the pun, any giant out there.
That's what
It's
makes
crazy how it works.
that's what makes baseball, I think, the greatest game. You don't see that in football a lot. You're not going to see a team
No.
take down Alabama next year, Appalachian State or whoever, one of the small teams. But in baseball, one of those small colleges can come in and kick Alabama or whoever the best baseball Division I team is. They can beat them 3-4 straight games. Now,
Yeah,
you
and you
wouldn't
see
bet.
that in the college game.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It doesn't matter. You'll see some D2 schools come in and whoop around ranked D1 team on any given day. It's crazy how baseball has continued to stay that way as everything develops. There's junior colleges that could walk a lot of top 25 teams, and I'm sure your junior college that you played at with that staff could have probably walked through a lot of the top 25 ranked teams at that time.
Oh, easily. And that's generally the thing with college or any baseball team. It's how deep your pitching is. Can you stack up against a team, a Division I that's got 4 or 5 starters? Most junior colleges only have 1 or 2. We just happened to be stacked, but we got beat by a team, at the end that had no business beating us, but they did.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So I'm going to jump into some Giants questions, and it's great that you played on the Giants because one of my biggest fans on the show, Mike Stahl, he is the biggest Giants fan, and every week he comes on and asks, "Do you know Will Clark?" And we know you already do. So do you have any good Will Clark stories for Mr. Stahl?
Oh, I've got a ton. How long do you have?
We have all night. Mike Stahl will stay up. He will call off work tomorrow. He's probably calling in right now when you said how much time does he have?
Well, I'll tell you a few stories, and I've got several Will Clark. I'll start with it started in college. I was supposed to go to Mississippi State, obviously in 1985, and play ball, signed that summer of 84, and ended up signing with the Giants instead. So I go off to play rookie ball. Well, the next season, I actually went up to Mississippi State to see a football game to see my best friend, and they were playing LSU. My other best friend from our high school team played at LSU, so he came up. So we kind of made it a little thing. But I worked out with the baseball team one day, and it was rookie ball, and I'll never forget. I remember like it was yesterday. Will Clark walked up to me and he asked me the question. He goes, "Hey, Lit," and I'll probably do a very bad Will Clark imitation. I can't do imitations, but he's got this Cajun, squeaky, irritating voice. All right, if you've ever heard him, you know, especially when he's excited. But he comes up and he goes, "Hey, Lit," he goes, "What do you think about the wooden bats?" And I was like, Will, I said, I didn't, or something about adjusting to the wooden bats. And I said, I didn't think it was that big a deal. I said, if you just accept that it's not going to do what aluminum bat will do, you got a sweet spot like this on aluminum bat, and a wooden bat, it's about like that. And I said, if you just accept it and hit, it's just hitting, you just do it. And he looks at me, doesn't flinch, doesn't bat an eye, and he goes, "There's no difference at all." And he walks off. And I remember telling myself, going, "Oh, okay, big boy, you'll see eventually." So
yeah,
just so you have it, I'm in Fresno, California the next year in that little bitty locker room, and that's going to come into play in just a second. So first half of the season, we've got Mackie Sasser, Charlie Hayes. We've got a team with, we were stacked. We had another great team. We didn't do much the first half at all. Even though we had a lot of talented players. Well, what do you know? Will Clark gets drafted, second overall pick by the Giants. So where does he come? He comes straight to Fresno. Now, Will knows nobody actually Brantley off of that same team signed with the Giants, came straight to Fresno also. Well, Will knows nobody on neither one of them know anybody on the team except for me because, we met the year before. So we knew each other casually is all. So Will ends up moving into our apartment. Well, the first night we're playing, I don't remember who, doesn't matter, but they've got a right-hander on the mound. He's throwing hard. Back in the old days with the old guns, but he's throwing 94, 95, 96 on the gun, which was pretty, that's some gas back then. And first
that's
pitch,
bringing it.
Yeah. And so Will's up at bat, and he's got all the flair and wiggling his bat and all that. And first pitch, he just a fastball guy just pumps it right down the middle. Will kind of flinches, and I'm kind of like, all right, welcome to pro ball, Mr. Clark. Well, the next pitch, he pumps another fastball right down the middle. Will swings at it about a day late, fouls it back, and I'm going, no difference, huh? Well, the next pitch, he throws a fastball out over the plate, and he hits it over the left field fence. And I'm like, son of a gun. Well, I'm not rooting for him to do bad by any means, but I'm just like,
Right.
okay, well, his fourth at bat. Now, Fresno was a good hitting park. I mean, not necessarily a good home run hitting park because it was short down, from both lines to the alleys, but they had like a 15, 20-foot wall. And then center field was way out there. Only guy all year. Will, fourth at bat, comes up. Guy hangs a changeup or something. Dead center field, hits 2 home runs. And I remember sitting in the dugout going, well, crap. Maybe there is no difference. Maybe I'm just not that good. And so, anyways, after the game, he must have been doing some interviews and stuff on the field. And I'll never forget this. And I kid around saying this, but I tell people when I speak that when they ask about Will, I said, yeah, in one night, he united the entire team. Because up until that point, we'd been a bunch of individuals. We had some good halves, we had some good players, but we weren't winning, And Will walks into the locker room. Now, mind you, he's buddies with Brantley, obviously, and knows me a smidge, but he knows none of the other 23 guys. All right. He walks into the locker room and goes, and it's tiny. And he's like, hey, guys. And everybody kind of stops. They're all getting undressed, and they're like, what? And he goes, took me a long time to get used to the wooden bats, huh? Yeah. See the look on your face? Yeah, that's exactly.
I can see the smart ass grin, the cocked side face.
Oh, yeah. And just the look you made on your face right there. I kid around and I tell everybody he brought the whole team together because that's the first time all year we were in unison because we all wanted to kill him. All right, now here comes this bonus baby. He got more to sign than all the rest of us combined, and he comes in, hits 2 home runs the first night, walks in and says that. But I will tell you, this is kind of a long connected story, but now he went on for about 2 weeks. Let's just say he learned the wooden bats were a little bit different. Next 2 weeks, he must have broke about 40 bats. I mean, he was breaking so many bats. He'd come in after an at bat. Everybody on the dugout would, act like they weren't, looking around because they didn't want to make eye contact because he'd want to borrow one of your bats. And you knew you weren't getting it back because he was just shattering 1 or 2 every at bat. And so
bat killer.
Yeah. And he came out of college where he wrapped that Easton bat up about that big around. And he thought he was going to come in with those heavier wooden bats and do the same. And you can't, he needed a little more bat speed, and that's what the smaller handle does. But anyway, so I'm batting third and I'm loving this. Not that he's struggling. Well, I did like that a little. Just because of his cockiness. And I remember what he said in college. So I did enjoy it a little.
And that's all right, because the one thing most people don't know or think about in that manner, even though you're a team, every single guy is competing to move up to the next level and competing with everybody at the next level and the level above that to win one of 24 spots, which half of them are pitchers, half of them are position players.
Yeah.
So
we're
friends, but at the same time, it's competition. So there's those little chips on the shoulder. Yeah. There's those moments, you got the good guy on one shoulder and the bad guy on the other shoulder, laughing when something happens. The other one's cheering when it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So my one side was laughing every time he broke a bat and struggling, but he already had the reputation. Now he comes in, hits 2 home runs the first night. He's already a big bonus baby. So I'm batting third. He's batting fourth, and I'm just getting fastball after fastball, and I could hit a fastball, young hitter. I could get the head out, and so I'm just tearing it up, and I'm loving it. And he's struggling, and so I'm walking in the locker room one day in Fresno. And you got to walk by the manager's office to get to the locker room, and our manager Wendell Kim stops me, and he goes, "Hey, Lit, Get in here and close the door. So I walk in there and I'm thinking, all right, he's going to pat me on the back, give me a couple compliments, because I'm tearing it up and everything. So I sit down and he goes, listen, I just want you to know the brass has told me that they want Will hitting third. And so tonight you're going to be hitting fourth, protecting him. And you're moving to fourth. He's moving to third. I wanted you to know before you see the lineup and know why. Well, if you don't understand that right there, that's a slap in the face. I mean, to a little degree, it's nice that they want to use me to protect him and think that much of me. But on the flip side of it, they're basically moving me because they don't care, in a sense. Not that they don't care, but obviously they're more concerned with him than me. And
they're worried about what's going on with him since they just paid him the boat. And
exactly.
They need him to start rowing that thing.
Exactly. And so they want me to get him some better pitches. So I'll be honest, I was a little ticked off, pissed off. But I can tell you guys right now, anybody out here watching and listening to this, and who was your boy that loves Will?
Oh, he's going to come on with us in just a second and ask
What's
you a
his
couple
name?
questions. Mike Stahl.
Mike. I can tell Mike and anybody out there is a big Will Clark fan. There's no bigger fan of Will Clark on a baseball field than me. That animosity or little bit of hurt only lasted a couple games. And I can honestly tell you guys, we went on to win the championship in A-ball that year. And without a doubt, the reason we won was Will Clark. And about the second or third game, I'm batting fourth. Will's batting third. About the fourth inning, we're down 2 runs. I think it was about 4-2. First 2 hitters get on, and Will Clark drag bunts. All right. And for any of you guys,
there's something you don't see in today's game.
Exactly. And you certainly don't see it from the 3 or 4 hitter. And I was sitting there on deck, and I promise you, if they'd have shown me, I was probably like this. Like what? Because Will Clark doesn't get a bunt sign. Our manager Wendell didn't give him a bunt sign. But I'm telling you, when he did that to get those runners in the scoring position. I kind of say for me, but it wasn't for me. It was for the team. And I'm telling you, I was so pumped up. I got a base hit, tied the game up, and I went on to have 103 RBIs that year. But I can tell you, Will Clark changed our entire team makeup because, and why I say I'm the biggest fan of Will Clark on that baseball field, because I promise you, he's the biggest superstar I ever played with, that when he walked on that field, there was no doubt in any of our minds, and I promise you any of the other teams' minds, that Will Clark was going to do whatever it took to win that game. Not to pad his stats. He was going to do whatever it took. If it took running into the concrete wall in the dugout, or bunting, or hitting one out of the ballpark. And I'm telling you, he changed the entire team's attitude. And we went on to kill everybody the second half and won the championship. And I can tell you, it was all because of Will Clark.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to bring on our guest, our second guest here tonight, Mr. Mike Stahl, huge Giants fan, huge Will Clark fan. He's going to ask a couple Will Clark questions, of course. Whenever we get this chance, we always give it to him. So here's Mike Stahl. Greetings,
Mike. I have all
Mike.
the Giants stuff on right now.
Love it.
I don't.
Awesome.
Big fan. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So I posted a question in chat, and it's, first of all, my first question, I guess, is, did he want you to call him the Thrill?
No, we ended up calling him the Thrill. He never asked us to, but when he just had a way of earning that title, and everybody ended up calling him that, but not because he wanted us to, I promise.
I almost wanted to bat left-handed in high school just to have that swing, right? That natural swing that he had was beautiful. So we'll go away from Will Clark because I'm giddy right now, and when you build up your hero from high school and stuff, like, you don't like, it's cool when you hear that, hey, he was pretty good guy too. And Chris had somebody else on that even affirmed, kind of confirmed that before. So that was pretty cool. But so I posted another question earlier that's, again, kind of a fun question, but and I think you were there at the same time as, Matt Williams, Kevin Mitchell, that same team.
Yeah.
So you're in a pickup softball game, and the only two people left to fill your team up were Kevin Mitchell and Matt Williams. Who do you pick?
You mean, who do I pick first?
Yeah. You only get one pick.
Oh, no, it's not even a question. I pick Mitch.
Oh,
Because now, if it was fast pitch, now, what did you say? Slow pitch, right?
oh yeah. I mean, we're older now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
All right.
slow pitch,
Yeah, but now, if it was fast pitch, I take Matty. Matty could hit a ball shot out of a bazooka at him. When he was young, he had summer gun, could hit any fastball you could possibly throw him. But Mitch, he had that big hitch in his swing. He could still hit a fastball, but he was a much better breaking ball, slow ball hitter.
That's funny. Yeah, to this day, I still hate the Oakland A's.
Well, they cheated. That's the only way they beat us. Bunch of all the steroids. Jeez, come
Steroids, earthquakes, whatever. Yeah, they caused a bunch of uncertainty and doubt.
Yeah, that was
By
my
the way, I'm drinking Russell's tonight, in case we were wondering.
Oh, I hadn't even tried that, but yeah, that was my rookie year, the Earthquake World Series. And I tell you another funny story. I got called up that year, and because Fire got hurt, and I could play multiple positions. It ended up being a good thing to get me called up. It kind of stunk in one sense, because once I got called up and did a pretty good job at that, I kind of got stuck in that role. And it's hard to, I learned this. I used to, young and dumb in the minor leagues, you'd see these guys that weren't playing every day in the big leagues and think, why are they hitting 230? Geez, that's terrible. Right. Well, then you get to the major leagues and play once a week and realize it's hard enough hitting those guys playing every day. But when you play once or twice a week, and when you do play, it's not against their fourth or fifth starter. That's not who they give, Robbie Thompson or Matt Williams a day off against. They give them a day off against John Smoltz. Right. And that's when it's like, hey, Greg, you haven't played in 5 days. Go get John Smoltz today. And so you realize that it's tough. But I got called up, and Matt Williams got sent down because he started the year at third, but he wasn't quite ready. And Ernie Riles was playing third base and doing a very good job against right-handers, and they had tried everybody else against lefties at third except for me. And I finally got a start at third base and had a good game. And so most of the year, me and Ernie are basically both hitting over 300, playing third base. The team's in first place. Unfortunately for us, Matty's down in AAA hitting like 22 home runs in 180 at bats. And we're like, geez. So they bring him up, and both Ernie and I go to the bench or go back to the bench per se, platooning. And we go into Oakland. They got Dave Stewart, Mike Moore. They pitch great in Oakland, stick it up our butts. And I don't know if they didn't go complete games, but they beat us pretty bad. And with a DH and you don't start, you typically don't play. And so we go back to San Francisco, have a day off. It's Friday night, and they got Bob Welch pitching scheduled. Another right-handed pitcher, won 17 games. And so I'm not in the lineup. And about, I guess the Earthquake hit about 5:05. And I was inside just goofing off, hanging around with some of my minor league buddies that were September call-ups that weren't on the roster but were there. And we were kidding around, and Roger Craig walked by, and he goes, my locker just happened to be right next to the training room. And he walked by and he goes, Lit, get out there and get loose. You might be starting. And then walks into the training room, doesn't say anything else. And, I turn around, and my minor league buddies, their eyes are about that big, they're like, and I'm like, he's just kidding. I'm like, I'm not starting. He's just messing with me. I had a pretty good relationship with Roger. Well, he walks back out and says that Bob Welch is either sick or hurt. I don't remember. But he said, La Russa says, he's going to go out and warm up, but plan on a lefty going. And Roger said, if that happens, you're starting somewhere. I don't remember, probably didn't even hear him, and so, and I tell people this because I do travel and speak a lot. And I say at that point, I did what all good ball players do. I went to the bathroom. And so I actually took a leak in the bathroom. I hate to say that, but I'm walking out of the bathroom when the earthquake hit. And I was probably only in Candlestick Park, 20 or 30 yards from being out in the parking lot, safe. And I'd been through a bunch of little earthquakes. I grew up in Panama, played minor league ball in California, and most of them are funny because they're little. And so I just said, well, I'll just stand here in the door jamb. And what I learned that night was you don't know how big an earthquake's going to get until it stops getting bigger. And this one didn't stop getting bigger for a while. It just kept going and going and going. And then the lights go out. The rumble that earthquake that size makes is really eerie. And then if you can imagine what concrete sounds like being bent, twisted, and torqued above your head, I mean, I thought it was coming down. I was dead. And so I was about to start game 3 of that earthquake and got earthquaked out. So I always kid people about that when something lucky happens, maybe a bounce on a golf course. I go, hey, what do you mean lucky? I said, I was about to start a World Series game and got earthquaked out, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
That's
clearly
crazy.
Oakland caused that on purpose because that would have been the W, right? That would have been the W.
You never know.
It would have turned the whole series around right there. They did.
Here's a fun question. Tim Evans just asked this. Another one we ask a lot. He just confirmed he does have your rookie card, by the way. He wanted to ask, as we asked everyone else, you got the tops check when you're in the minor leagues. Did you save it or did you cash it?
I hate to admit it, but I cashed it. I think I got me a Happy Meal or something with it. But when you're making $600-800 a month in the minor leagues like we did,
You need every penny.
yeah, $5. I'm sorry, that's lunch or dinner.
For sure.
So, yeah, I cashed it. That's my bad.
For sure.
So I have one more question. I know Big League's got a bunch, and I don't want to, I'm just giddy with these questions and just to meet you. But so if you could have one pour with somebody, what would it be, and who would it be?
Anybody?
Anybody. It may not even be baseball related, but I mean it's double cool if it is. Just so you know, you get bonus points.
Lee, I got to tell you, I don't think it wouldn't be baseball. My biggest hero in baseball growing up was Pete Rose, but I got to meet him and played against him. But I think as an athlete, I would. My big time guy is Jack Nicklaus, and I'd like to play around or sit around and have him. And I'll tell you another funny story. I get kidded about this a lot. I was such a huge Jack Nicklaus fan. And when he got on the senior tour, I was playing in Boston. And I used to watch religiously when he was playing and studying his swing. Now I'm a pretty good golfer. I'm about a 4 handicap now. I was scratched for a while when I played a lot more. But I don't know anything about the swing. I just play, and I don't know mechanics and all that. But I noticed something in Jack's swing, and I used to tell all my teammates, watch Jack, and he does this when he hits it good. He does this when he hits it bad. And I watched him for years, and nobody, they would break down, analyze his swing, and get so technical, with these angles. And I'm like, no, it's a lot simpler than that. And so let's just say stupidly, I wrote Jack Nicklaus a letter, even sent him a tape that my buddy, the sportscaster, made for me, and sent it to Jack Nicklaus on official Boston Red Sox letterhead and told him what was wrong with his swing. And he wrote me back. And that's in my room. That's my prized possession. Is Jack Nicklaus wrote me back, told me I was exactly right. But I said, maybe it's so simple that nobody's pointed it out. And I said, I know how stupid this is, a baseball player. I said, but I can't help it. I said, you're my favorite player and all this. And he thanked me, and it was during the strike. And anyways, that was a big thrill for me. And so I tell you, my favorite bourbon, I don't think I'd go for the.
I mean, this has got to be big. That's the Golden Bear, right? Like you got to.
Yeah. And see, I've never had the Pappy or whatever. The best bourbon I've had that I've tried that I like is the Jefferson's Ocean, the Aged at Sea. I think I'd just go with that because I know I like it.
Very cool.
That's what's most important. It's got to be something you like.
Yeah. I don't care what somebody else likes, but anyways.
Very cool.
Right
so
on.
I did meet Kevin Mitchell one time. This was like probably 5 years after he was out of the league. I lived in San Diego, and he owned a paintball, like where you go play paintball.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he owned it, but like he was there, and he's sitting there like in his huge like F-350 truck, and like he's walking around, and I was like, I know who you freaking are right now, like, and he's like, no, it's not me. And then yeah, you like see the number, hit his number on his truck, and I was like, I know who you are. Yeah. So anyway, that's my Kevin Mitchell story.
Well, my eyes are off. I want to show you. You'll love this. Let me find this real quick. Unfortunately, it's been a long time that they flew us out last summer. No, well, not COVID summer of 20, but in 19, obviously, for the 30-year reunion. And that hurts. Doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I want to, this is, I don't know. Can you guys see that? Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's Kevin Mitchell, my little 10-year-old. And then that was at the 20. And then we did it in 19.
That guy doesn't age a bit.
Yeah. And my daughter just fell in love with Kevin. He took some time with her, and just, it's like he always did. He's like a big teddy bear. He acted like this big tough guy, which he was pretty tough too, but he
grew up tough, right? Like
had a rough upbringing, but he was a great dude. But that's my favorite pictures from the reunions.
That's so awesome.
That's awesome.
Greg, thank you for coming on. You need to tell everybody about Big League's channel. We certainly all love his channel and love to be part of it. And the stories you guys tell when you come on are stuff that, we all think about as, I'm playing high school, and you're talking about I'm playing high school ball and things that I remember from, that era of you guys playing for the Giants and stuff like that. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Ludwig. Appreciate it.
Not a problem, man.
My pleasure. Nice meeting you, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm going to jump back to the World Series. You had some big highlights in that year, man. Game 4. Tell us what happened in Game 4 for you.
Well, I'll tell you, look, I wasn't a big superstar. I think if I'd have got a chance to play second base every day, that was my position that I excelled the most at. And back then, for a second baseman, I had power and could play defense. And, at 6 foot 190, I was fairly big for second basemen back then. But my biggest thing, I was real streaky hitting. And unfortunately, I had some bad streaks too. But in that World Series, I tell you what, I went 3 for 6 in Game 3. About halfway through game, I was supposed to start Game 3. We get earthquaked out. We have 2 weeks off, and all we do is sit around playing inter squad games and practicing and batting practice every day for 2 weeks while the city kind of rebuilds and recoups and gets back on their feet. And well, Oakland gets to come back. I had flown my whole family out for the weekend series for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, games in San Francisco. And they had just landed when the earthquake hit. Well, after 2 weeks, they all had to go back. And after 2 weeks, it was, I asked my dad, and I was like, Pops and my brother and everything, if you guys want to come back out, come on. And I said, but they're coming back with Mike or Dave Stewart and Mike Moore. and I'm probably not going to play much, so they were like, nah, we'll just watch on TV. Well, halfway through game 3, we were getting beat pretty bad, unfortunately. And Roger put a few of us in, and I went, had a single, double, 2 RBIs. And I kid around with Roger, like at the reunion. He didn't remember, but he said one of the dumbest things he could have possibly said after that game. He walked by and, slapped me on the butt and said, good job. And he goes, get your rest tonight. So you don't have to know anything about baseball to know what that means. I'm starting game 4, right? So how much rest do you think I got? A rookie in the big leagues.
None.
Yeah, exactly.
None.
So, but the next night, I can tell you I went 1 for 4, hit a 2-run homer that kind of put us back in the game. And I think it was the 6th or 7th inning. We were down 8-2. I made it 8-4. We scored 2 more to get back in the game, but then our pitchers just couldn't hold them. They were on fire. And but to this day, honest to goodness, I went 3 for 6 with 4 RBIs, and I'm still ticked off because you hear people talk about the zone. I promise you, every pitch thrown to me, this is what it looked like. It looked like it was coming at me in slow motion. And the only pitches I missed were the ones that was just like, oh my God, I'm going to kill it. And then I tried to kill it and still hit it. I mean, I hit it hard every time up, but just missed the other 3, really smoking them. And so 3 for 6, honest to goodness, that was as bad as I could have possibly done in that World Series, because I don't know whether it was just the adrenaline or how you get to that point, because I wasn't hitting very good at the end of the season. Wasn't getting to play much right at the end. And, quite frankly, wasn't swinging the bat great. And in the playoffs, we played the Cubs 5 games, only got to pinch hit 1 time. And that was really in a situation that, the game wasn't on the line or anything, but I had a single, hit a line drive to left in Chicago. But I wasn't swinging the bat great at that point, but something happened in that World Series. I think it was just maybe massive adrenaline flow. And man, it was, but I can tell you this, I had more fun. You hear the athletes that their rookie year, they got to the World Series, Super Bowl, or maybe the NBA finals. And you hear them say they never got back, and they didn't appreciate and enjoy that first one because they expected to get back and do it again. I can tell you that didn't happen to me. I enjoyed every second of every day of those playoffs and the World Series, and couldn't have had a better time. And that's probably why I think I was successful, is just because I was just having fun.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. We dream about getting to the World Series, hitting a home run, getting to play in the game. You got to do those things.
I'll tell you,
amazing.
I'll tell you that home run I did hit was pretty cool. It was one of those. I mean, again, it was a fastball up and in, and it looked like it was sitting on a tee, but I turned on it, and just one of those. I didn't have, Matt Williams or Kevin Mitchell power to hit bombs, but when you hit it, and as soon as I hit it, I knew it was gone. And I remember halfway to first base, it was like, dude, you just hit a home run in the World Series, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Now, not only have you hit a home run in the World Series, you've also played every single position, including pitching, in the big leagues.
Yeah,
that has only been done by a few players to this point. That's pretty damn impressive itself.
Yeah,
I was pitching.
One of the best compliments I ever got, and it wasn't even given to me. He didn't say it to me, but I played with Rick Leach. I don't know if you remember Rick Leach, old Michigan quarterback that played it in Detroit, and he came over to San Francisco. Great guy, man. He just a super guy. Had some demons with drugs, but I had he lived in Flint, Michigan, in the off season, and one of my junior college teammates was from Flint, and somehow ran into him at Warwick Hills, one of the nice golf courses there. he called me and said, "Hey, I played golf with one of your old teammates today," and it was Rick Leach. And I tell you what, to this day, it's one of the best compliments I've ever had. Rick Leach, who I respected, played a long time in the big leagues, was very talented. But he told my buddy, he said, yeah, he said of all the, because of course my buddy asked him, if he knew me and we'd played together. And he said, Greg's the only guy I've ever played with that could legitimately play every position on the field, not just sub, but could start and play. You could, legitimately play in the big leagues, every position. And that always meant a lot to me. But again, it's one of those things. It was nice. I got called up because Chris Spire got hurt, and that's one of my all-time favorite guys. Man, that dude taught me, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how much I appreciate and love that guy. He went out of his way to teach me how to do his job when I got called up, because as an everyday player in the minor leagues, I could play all over. In the minor leagues, I'd played left and right, first, second, third, short, just spelling somebody or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, I was an everyday player. I had no idea how to be a utility player in the big leagues. And he taught me the first week I was in the big leagues, actually my second game, basically how to do it, what to look for, how to be ready in any and every circumstance. And because of what he taught me, I did so well that rookie year, I ended up taking his job. And it was kind of funny this past year at the reunion in 19, my daughter, he wasn't there at the 20th because he was coaching at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I introduced my daughters and told him how much, Chris meant to me. And Chris was like, "Oh, don't listen to him." He goes, "Your dad took my job." And my daughters were like, "Oh," and I said, "Oh, save it." I said, "Chris, you ain't getting no sympathy here." I said, "Dude, you're in your 21st year, for crying out loud." I said, "That's long enough. Go home." And we laughed, but yeah, he taught me, how to do his job. And, it was one of those great, I could catch, I learned to catch, but again, I kind of got stuck in that role. And several times one of my good friends from Pensacola here, Jay Bell, played for the Pirates, and Jim Leland really liked me, and he loved Jay, and Jay kept telling him, "You need to get Greg over here and play second base for us." And they tried to trade for me several times to do that. But the Giants would never give me up unless they could get more than I was worth, because they didn't want to get rid of me because I was insurance for Will. I wasn't really a first.
All the way around the field.
Yeah, I wasn't really a first baseman.
Don't sell it short.
Yeah, but Robbie Thompson was always injury prone. And so I was, they kept expecting him to get hurt. And so I was kind of, possibly going to get shots there, but it just never worked out. So I never got traded and got stuck in that role. So it was great in one sense, but it, I think it kind of hurt and kept me from sticking around maybe a little bit longer. I got 6 years in, which was great, but that wasn't quite what I had in mind, but it was still pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you talked about Rick Leach, all kinds of talent. One of our guys in the group brought him up as they're from the Michigan area.
Yeah.
Said he's one of Midland's best, and that is Mr. Klein, who also knows Rick Leach. But that being said, I was asked these questions too. Who was the best player you ever played with? And then we go vice versa. Who was the best player you ever played with that didn't make it or should have been there longer?
Wow. Well, the best player I ever played with is not even close. I played with Alex Rodriguez in AAA when he was 19 years old. And I remember coming home that winter and telling all of my friends, I said, "Guys, you got to just watch this guy." Now, this was pre getting so big. He was 19 years old, 6'4", 210 pounds, shoulders, like 6 inches wide on each side, wider than mine, about a 30-inch waist, I mean, he had the best athletic baseball body I'd ever seen. He hit balls that year you just couldn't imagine in parks that just were not hitters' ballparks. We were playing the Giants late in the summer, and the radio guy that was doing the AAA games was still the same guy when I was there, and so he had me do a pregame. And one of the questions he asked me was to compare, because I played with Matty when he was 19 in AAA, and he asked me to compare Matt Williams to Alex Rodriguez at the same age. And I remember going, dude, there's no comparison. And I said, it's not even close. Matt, the only thing Matt could do as well as Alex was hit a fastball. You could shoot a fastball out of a cannon, and Matt Williams would crush it. But if you could throw a breaking ball anywhere near the plate 3 straight times, you'd strike him out unless you hung it. But if you made 3 good pitches with it, he was done. And I said, Matty's not as fast. He's not as good a fielder. Matty was a good fielder, but third baseman, he didn't have the range to really play short. Alex had a hose. And
yeah, he did.
Yeah, I said, there's really no comparison. And there really wasn't. And when I would tell people home that you got to watch for this guy, they're all like, I said, he's the best baseball player I've ever seen. And they're like, oh, come on, you played with Griffey. And I said, Griffey can't hold his job. And I hate to say it. And now it's obviously a lot closer than that. But at the same age, I mean, I was just so blown away what this guy could do, not just physically, but mentally. He'd take 2 sliders, and I saw him do this in Tacoma, Washington, which is one of the worst hitting ballparks you can play in, with a 15-foot wall, air, heavy, humid. Late in the game, the ball goes nowhere. Right-hander throws him 2 sliders, low and outside. He looked terrible. Throws him a third one, doesn't hang it, throws it knee-high out over the plate, and he hits it over the scoreboard in right center field fence. Right center field. And I'm just like, wow. And we were playing one night. It was funny. Late in the season, maybe, last week of the season probably. And we're playing the Padres. They bring up this young kid from A-ball, and he's throwing like 96, miles an hour. I mean, and I still remember the first inning, our pitching coach sitting next to our pitching coach in the dugout, and he's throwing, and he looks over at me, and I think I'm batting 5th. And he goes, Lit. He goes, you're going to cheat? Basically, start early. And I looked at him. I go, well, if you think I'm going to hit this guy, that's the only way I'm going to do it. And I told him, I was kidding around. I go, listen, if I go up there and get 2-0 or 3-1 and he throws a breaking ball, just go ahead and send the trainer out, because I'm going to get hurt, because I'm going to be getting the head out early. And I go up there, first at bat, second inning, the wind's even blowing in, and it's like a wet, almost like just fog blowing in. And I get ahead in the count 2-0, and I just decide, all right, I'm going to get the head out. And I start real early, and he throws a pitch knee-high, inside half of the plate, just perfect. And I just cream it. I mean, I hit this ball to left center field, just murder it. And he's throwing 96, which helps. And we've got a 15, 16-foot wall, about a 5-foot gap, and then about a 10, 12-foot or bigger scoreboard. And when I hit it so good, I didn't care about the wind. I'm like, that's over the scoreboard. I mean, I murdered this ball. And I take about 3 or 4 steps, and I'm like, okay, well, it's not going over the scoreboard, but it's going to be off the scoreboard. And I take a couple more steps, and now I'm like, geez, just go out of the ballpark, please. And it goes out, just covers the fence, but goes in between the scoreboard. So it only went out by, 2 to 5 feet. And I got back to the dugout. Everybody's high-fiving me. I mean, dude, that was a bomb into the wind like that and all. I mean, and it barely went out. Left center was pretty deep, but it didn't go over 3 or 4 feet over the fence, and I'm getting high five for hitting a bomb. Alex comes up to bat 2 innings later and hits one, when I say into the lights, not up the flagpole or the light pole, I'm talking into the lights, and we're all just like, and I'm just like, thanks, Alex. I mean, I'm getting high five for hitting what looks like a little 9-iron, and he just hit one about 8 miles. Anyways, that's a long story, but no question
No,
about
that's
it.
a good story. That's a good story.
And but I'll tell you, one of the best hitters I ever played with was a guy named Ty Dabney, Dabney. Look him up, minor league stats. Little lefty, could just flat out rake. I mean, this guy from foul pole to foul pole could hit the ball on a line as hard as anybody I ever played with. I mean, little guy too, 5'9", 155 pounds, soaking wet, but could flat just mash, and wasn't a very good defensive player. The Giants, in my opinion, never really worked with him enough, because if I had that guy as well as he could hit, I'd have him out there every day until he became a decent fielder. But he finally got traded to Milwaukee. We were roommates, and he got traded in spring training to Milwaukee. And I was so happy for him. And he got over there and was calling me, because it was like the first time in his career. Even this guy hit 330 almost everywhere he played, and with 40 doubles, 15 home runs. And he was so happy because Milwaukee wanted him. You know, he felt like this first place. He gets the AA. It's like the first or second week in the season. They're playing now. They played in El Paso. If this dude played, if this dude played half a season in El Paso, he hits 30 doubles and 15, 20 home runs in half a season and hits 360. I promise you, this dude could hit. And that was just a launching pad. And about the second week he was there, he was on first base, ground ball, went into second base, forgot how many outs there were. Didn't slide, got hit in the temple with the throw, had to get a plate put in his head, and his career was over.
No.
Yeah, it sucked, and couldn't have been, honest to goodness. If I played with a nicer guy, I don't remember it, or even played against one. One of the just best pure hitters and nicest guys I ever played with.
Man, that's crazy.
Yep.
And those things happen. You know, that's why I like to ask these questions, because we get to find out about people that we never did get to see play or got to know. And, you know, I think it's important that, you know, those stories carry on and we get to know a little bit about these people as well, you know, because there's way too much talent that gets lost in the mix, and we don't get to hear those stories. And there's honestly so many good ones.
Yeah.
You know, back to Alex. Oops, sorry. But back to Alex, I got to see him in his first minor league game because he played for the Appleton Foxes here in Beloit against what was then the Beloit Brewers. And I got to go out there and see him. When you saw that guy come out of the dugout at 18 years old, you were like,
yeah.
And then you watched him swing it, throw it. I mean, that was a man amongst boys in A-ball, and he was the youngest guy out there. It was crazy. But to watch him, it was like when you watched him go to field a ball in the hole, it was almost like you were watching a guy float when he went for it. And then all of a sudden he just ripped a rocket across the field. Yeah. That was fun to watch.
Well, I'll tell you, right before you saw that, I was in Seattle that year playing with the Mariners. Yeah. We signed him #1 pick. He came straight to Seattle and practiced with us for about 4 or 5 days. And I remember taking ground balls with him, watching him take batting practice. And I'm just like, wow, this guy was. But I tell you, I when I came home that year, I told everybody what made him so much more advanced, especially at that age, because I played with him the next year in AAA, and obviously practiced with him right before you saw him playing his rookie year. But I'm telling you, mentally, dude was so advanced mentally, just. And I used to kid around with him. I mean, he was just like he was a little con man. I mean, he had the mental game of a 30-year-old. Just he was so smart baseball wise. I'm telling you, it was just. I said Dusty Baker told me years ago, and it's one of the wisest things I've ever heard. And we were talking about Jay Bell, because Jay and I were buddies, and Jay later in his career kind of figured out the hitting. But Dusty said, he said, Greg, he said, if you can trick them long enough for your mental ability to catch up to your physical ability, he said, then you got it licked. And Alex was 10 years ahead of his physical ability, which was the best physical ability I'd ever seen. So, it was a shame I think if he had stayed that same size, because look, there's no secret he used steroids. I mean, if you just look at his, I saw this one time on ESPN, showed his first home run, his 50th home run, his 100th home run, his 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. And every time they showed him, he just got bigger and bigger and bigger, but he wasn't as good a baseball player. When I played with him, I'm telling you, he was, and that next year, he had a cup, the way they did him that first year, and this was in 95, my last year. It was, I used to tell him, we used to play golf, and he used to follow me around like a little puppy dog because I was one of the veterans on the team. And we had a lot of fun, played some golf together. But I used to tell him, I go, Alex, I said, the way the Mariners are doing you, if they did me that way, a veteran utility player guy, got 6 years in, if they brought me up and down the way they were doing you, it would be bad. And I remember telling him, I go, dude, you just got to hang in there. I said, because they're really, it was, you don't do a guy as good as Alex and bring him up and down like he's a backup player.
No.
You don't do that. They shouldn't have done it, but he was so advanced, it didn't hurt him at all. But the next year he went out and hit 355 and led the league in hitting his first full year. I'm telling you, if he'd have stayed like that, I think he'd have gone down as the best shortstop that ever played the game, if he hadn't gotten so big and done that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just watching him play was something else. Now, Tim Evan asks, what's your opinion? Are Barry Bonds and A-Rod going to make the Hall of Fame?
I'd say no. In my opinion, they don't deserve it. The only case for Barry and possibly Alex, because it's questionable when he started, but there's no doubt he was using for a large part of his career. The only argument to be made is for Bonds, because he was going to be in the Hall of Fame if he didn't cheat.
Right.
I mean, he
was well on his way before he changed.
Yeah, dude was he if he hadn't cheated, he'd have still been in the Hall of Fame. He'd have hit 400 or 500 home runs with all the stolen bases. Might have stolen more bases. But so that's the only argument. And people want to argue, and I always tell them, they go, well, what about the guys like Piazza or Bagwell that we all know cheated too, that got in? Their names just never got wrapped up in it. And I always tell them, I go, listen, if we catch somebody here in Pensacola robbing a bank tomorrow, we don't let them go because somebody in Wisconsin robbed a bank and got away with it, right? You punish the people that basically got caught. And, I don't feel sorry for them. Look, they cheated. They did it to make money, to become a great, much better baseball player. They made millions of dollars. They knew what they were doing. They knew the risks. They don't need to be rewarded with the Hall of Fame on top of that, no matter who else got in that may have cheated.
Right on. I can respect that.
Yeah. And that's coming, Chris, from somebody that was clean, that never took the stuff. So, I always, when somebody an ex-player that makes the case that they ought to be in, I'm always like, yeah, I think they must have cheated too and still didn't make it and think it didn't help, because you got to be pretty stupid to think taking steroids doesn't make you a much, much, much better baseball player or athlete in general.
Yeah. For a lot of people, it helps in ways that just are mind-boggling. When you watch certain guys who have never hit more than 13 home runs in a year in their career, and they jump to 51 home runs the next year in a contract year.
Yeah. Well, here's what I always tell them, Chris. Look, I lifted weights. I mean, I lifted my butt off. I wouldn't have made it and even when I was playing, this is back in the, late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants used to try and talk me out of lifting weights every year, because that's back when they thought it was a taboo. And I tried it for a couple years, not lifting in the winter, and God, playing 142 game schedule in the minor leagues with like 5 days off, those bus rides with eating at McDonald's because you don't have any money every day. I was worn out by the second half when I did that. So I went back to lifting.
Sure.
Yeah. But I always tell people, I go, look, it doesn't necessarily make you a better hitter, but here's how you can look at it. And if anybody can argue against this, I just don't think they're very smart. All right. You take a guy that's a 270 hitter, 15 home runs, and say 70 RBIs, and say 600 at bats, a full, good full season, 600 at bats. All right.
Mm-hmm.
He swings a 34-inch bat, 32 ounces. All right. He goes off that winter, puts on 30 pounds of muscle, comes back the next year swinging a 35-inch, 33-ounce bat, the same speed. Not any faster, but now he's swinging a longer, heavier bat, the same speed as he did a 34, 32. All right. In 600 at bats, a 270 hitter with 15 home runs, what do they hit? 20 to 30 warning track fly balls? What do they hit? 10 or 15 balls maybe off the wall or off the base of the wall for doubles? Yeah. With an inch longer, ounce heavier bat, those balls are all home runs. You don't have to hit them any better. Now instead of 20 to 30 long fly ball can of corns, all right, you got 20 to 30 more hits. Now your average goes from 270 to close to 300. 15 to 35, 40 home runs, and now you got 100 RBIs. And all you did was swing a heavier bat the same speed. Now, I don't see how anybody and even ground balls. How many ground balls? I couldn't run a lick. If I beat out 2 infield ground balls for hits a year, it was a miracle. All right. So, and that was if the shortstop, backhanded it and fell down. All right. But how many balls did infielders just snag and throw me out? All right. Dozens, right? Now I'm swinging a heavier bat. All those balls have more velocity. They get through the infield. But that's the simple way to look at it, just physics. Anybody that doesn't understand that, I just don't understand how they don't understand it. But I think you can do like Bonds, where it actually does make you a better hitter. Bonds swung the same bat, looked like about 5 miles an hour faster. So he could sit there at home plate. He took guys, remember in that World Series in 2002, the Angels had the guy come in. He's throwing 100 Percival or whatever. He's throwing 100
Troy
miles
Percival
an hour.
And K-Rod.
Yeah. And Bonds turned on it. Looked like it was an 85 mile an hour, BP fastball. But when you've got that much more bat speed, you take a guy throwing 95 that's gas, and now you're not afraid of his fastball. So now you can hit his breaking ball even better. If I had to face guys throwing 85 every day, heck, I think I might have been a Hall of Famer, as a second baseman.
Right. For sure.
Because I can hit his fastball or his breaking balls better if I'm not afraid of his fastball. Once the pitcher gets to the point, whatever your swing and ability is, for me, it was about 94, 95, where I had to start guessing. So I couldn't look for a fastball. I might get lucky if he hangs a breaking ball and get a hit off of it. But I wasn't like Will Clark, who could look for a 95, 6 mile an hour fastball. They throw a breaking ball and he hits a home run. Me, I had to hit one or the other. But if I could take a 95 mile an hour fastball, add 3 or 4 miles an hour to my swing, well, now that fastball is about 90. And now I can hit him better. So it's insane. So I have no respect for these guys that cheated. They knew what they were doing. They took the fame and the contracts and the cash, So you don't reward them with the Hall of Fame on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard that way. It's hard. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit again. We got your best player that didn't make it. So you got to play for Roger Craig. You got to play for some other great managers during your day. Was there anyone that you would have wished you could have played for, or did you get to play for, in your opinion, some of the best out there?
I tell you, I loved Roger. What a great man. So glad I got to see him in San Francisco, in 19, because he's getting on up there in age. Probably the last time I'll see him, just because 10 more years of reunion. I doubt he's going to be around that long. Great guy. First couple years, I thought he did a great job in San Francisco. The last couple years, when the team wasn't doing so well and it looked like his job might be on the line, I thought he kind of started panicking. He started trying to take too much control, which is terrible for a manager. If the players aren't doing the jobs, and you can, a couple of moves in a game might be crucial and a manager can affect the game. But bottom line is, if we don't do the job, it doesn't matter what the manager does. And I didn't think he did a great job the last couple of years there. Who I loved playing for was Lou Piniella. Lou was awesome. I wish I'd have got to play for Dusty. Dusty's one of my best friends from the game. The most knowledgeable baseball person I've ever been around, bar none. Not even close. But he was my hitting instructor in San Francisco 4 years, was great at that too. But Lou was great for players with thick skin and that had a little age on them, experience, because he was tough. It didn't matter whether you popped up in the first inning with the bases loaded or the ninth inning, he'd go nuts, and young players, that puts a lot of pressure on them. And that's why I think people didn't think he was, well suited for young teams. I loved him. He kept everybody on the bench fresh. I played almost every game that year against lefties, and I knew it might be left field, right field, first base, second, third, short. I played 7 positions that year, including DH, just regular games, and against almost every lefty. So I was fresh. So when they needed me to step in and get a base hit off a lefty pinch hitting, I hit 400 that year pinch hitting, hit 299 regular season. But it was mostly because Lou did such a great job of keeping all of us on the bench fresh. But the one guy I tell you that I wish, I could have played for was Jim Leland. I think he was one of the best managers in the game, not just because he liked me and tried to trade for me a couple of times, but I remember going into, and this is one of the best things I've ever heard a manager say. We went into Pittsburgh my 3rd or 4th year when Roger, there were times when, I would go 10 days without even seeing the field. And then I'd have to pinch hit. And I hate to say it, I'm not making excuses, but when you haven't played and had an at-bat in 10 days, I got some lucky hits, but that's mostly what they were. Trying to hit major league pitching when you haven't played in 10 days is damn near impossible. But we went into Pittsburgh. All right. And the next day at the ballpark, USA Today reading the paper, or probably the Pittsburgh Gazette, the local one. And the reporters were asking Leland about the night before's game. And I'll never forget this, because Leland had given Bonds and Bonilla a night off. And this was like June or July. And he gave them both a night off the same night. That's something Roger would have never given Will and Mitch a night off the same night. Wouldn't do it. And they were questioning Leland about it, and they ended up winning the game. But they questioned Jim and said, why would you give them both a night off? And he just goes, simple. He said they were both tired. Both of them needed a night off. And he said, he went on to say, he goes, I was prepared if we lost tonight, that's fine. He said, but I'd rather lose one game in June or July then lose 2 or 3 in September because they're worn out. And I never forgot that. And from playing against him, I thought he was the best manager I played against. No kidding aside, just loved him. I thought, and he didn't have a big pedigree. He didn't have a major league career. I don't think he ever played in the major leagues. Was a minor league manager, got promoted, but because he was just good and did a great job. Now he had Bonds and Bonilla and Van Slyke and Smiley and Drabek, and he had a good team, but he still did a great job. And I tell you a funny story. I was out. I used to always get to the ballpark real early, being a utility guy, to get my running in or whatever, get extra work. And I was out in the outfield. Pittsburgh had a few guys out early hitting. And so I was just down the right field line, or left field line, kind of watching them. One of our pitchers and catchers were out there getting some work in. Our pitching coach was there. And Leland was out shagging with a fungo. He'd get it and hit it back in. And he came over, started talking to me. And he never said anything, but I knew that, they had tried to trade for me the year before. And so did our pitching coach. And it was so funny. Jim knew I was a good golfer because Jay Bell had told him. And because Jay's from here, and we were buddies and worked out every winter together and played golf. And so Leland comes over to me, and we're just chatting a little bit. And he's like, hey, he goes, Jay tells me you're a pretty good golfer. And I'm like, yeah, I'm decent. And so he grabs the fungo, gets his grip, and he goes, well, tell me what you think. He takes a swing, like a golf swing. And he looks at me, he goes, what do you think? And I'm like, honestly? And he goes, well, yeah. And I go, you suck. and he laughed, and we kidded around a little bit, and he walked off. And our pitching coach goes, Greg, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean? And he goes, they tried to trade for you last year. He likes you. And I go, well, if he doesn't like me after that, I'd rather not play for him, for crying out loud. If anything, I guarantee you that made him want me even more. But yeah, I told him, yeah, I said, Jim, that your swing sucks. And it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. Tim Evans asked, did you ever face Nolan Ryan in your career?
Oh, man. I didn't get to face him, but we were playing the Rangers in Seattle, his last game and last pitch. One of my buddies on the team, Dan Howitt, hit a grand slam off of him that night. But he was facing us when he threw that pitch, and his tendons, I don't remember what all he blew out, but that was his last game and last pitch. And talk about a great guy. I do have a Nolan Ryan. I think I do. I'm not sure if I still have it. I had unfortunately, I got divorced a few years ago, but when my girls were little, we had a big house here and had a game room, and I had a bunch of signed balls I had gotten, and I had a repairman that was working on a refrigerator upstairs and stole about 15 or 20, and I didn't even know it for a year or two because they were underneath the floor. Stole a bunch of my balls. And but Nolan Ryan, every town or every team, when they'd come into Texas, he'd ask for a list from our trainer or whatever. And I think it was 2. He wouldn't sign more than 2, I think, for anybody. But he basically just asked everybody, just please leave me alone until the last day. And he would send over the request done the last day for the whole team. And I remember getting a couple of Nolan Ryan signed baseballs, and very, very much appreciated that. Thought that was extremely, for Nolan Ryan, for crying out loud, to treat the other teams and players with that kind of respect meant a lot to me.
Yeah, it's just that respect for the game all the way around. Those guys, they're special. They're special when they have those careers like that and respect the game in that way. So Mike Stahl fired back with one more question for you. He asked, did it seem like Bob Nepper was throwing batting practice all the time?
Bob Nepper. That's one of my favorite teammates. That year in '89, not only did I face him, he ended up coming over to the Giants and was on that World Series team. And I'll tell you what, though, it was tough hitting off Bob. I mean, he would just slow you to death. And I remember one game, faced him my rookie year. And I'll tell you one more Giant story. It's kind of funny. You know, I was telling you that Ernie Riles was doing the job against lefties or right-handed pitchers that season early on.
Mm-hmm.
And my first big league game, I get called up on May 1st. Next day I start. Greg Maddux is pitching. And let me tell this, since Mike's couple of stories. These are good. But Michael loved it. This is another Will Clark story and something you won't see in today's game. My first big league game. So we're playing, Maddux is pitching, and I didn't have any dramatic first at bat. I did the second pitch. He throws me that sinker. He starts in the left-hander's batter's box. It comes back for a strike, and I'm like, ooh. Well, he throws it again, and I hit a bullet down the first baseline line drive. It hits, I mean, like 4 inches foul, and I'm like, ended up fouling off a bunch of pitches, end up striking out. The only thing I remember is walking back to the dugout, and I was like, I mean, I was so cotton-mouthed I couldn't spit, you know, just nervous and everything. Well, late in the game, 8th inning, we're down by 1 run. Will Clark's leading off. Maddux is still on the mound. Now, it's not like today's shift, but for back then, it was a shift. And, you know, the third baseman is probably, you know, 25, maybe 30 feet from the bag, but he's not over, you know, playing shortstop. And, well, Will Clark leads off. He sees this. And like I said, when he drag bunted, Will used to practice bunting. It's the only superstar I ever saw practice bunting, and he actually was pretty good at it. But he pushes a bunt down the third base line and basically jogs to first base. And Maddux is yelling at him. You know, Maddux is about that big around, but he's all bowed up out there, and he's like, swing the bat, and he's yelling at Will, you know, because he's mad, you know, that he bunted. Well, we have a saying in baseball, don't forget about the hitter. Well, the next pitch, he hangs a slider, and Kevin Mitchell hits about here to Wisconsin. I mean, he just hits a bomb. And Maddux gets 2 quick outs, and then who's up? Me, the rookie. And that little son of a gun, people don't realize he could throw 94, 95 when he wanted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he plunks me right in the left knee. Just hits me square. Ooh. Yeah, right on the outside left knee. Just smokes me. All right. Now, we knew, you know, it was on purpose. And I'm down on the ground. I don't care. I'm old school. You know, he's pissed off. He hit me. That's fine. But what pissed me off is I couldn't get up and act like it didn't hurt, because your knee just doesn't work when it gets hit like that. And I'm trying to get up, and I'm like, you know, like Mike Tyson when Buster Douglas knocked him out. I'm trying to get up, and I'm falling, trying to get up, and it's ticking me off. Next inning, though. So anyways, but we win that game because Will Clark pushed a bunt and Mitchell hits it about 8 miles. Today's game, they're down by 4 or 5 runs in the 9th inning, and they got a shift on with literally nobody on the left side, and these guys will strike out or pop up trying to pull the ball, and it's infuriating because a solo home, the other team would rather you hit a solo home run than to hit a single and start a rally. They would. Right. But anyways, that's another story. But anyways, we're in Cincinnati a little bit later. Now, I've been up and down 3 times now. Chris Spire's come off the DL. I went back down. I was up for 10 days, AAA for 5 days. Chris gets hurt. Up for 10 days again. I get my first major league hit. Back down to the minor leagues for 4 or 5 days. Chris gets hurt again. I get called up, and we're in Cincinnati. And we're playing Thursday, this doubleheader on Thursday. And this is back when every game wasn't on TV. It was old. You know, you only had Monday Night Baseball, you had a Thursday night game, and then you had the big Saturday doubleheader, right? That's only 3 games, unless a WTBS or WGN with the Cubs or Braves. And so our second game was what all the veterans used to call it, the game of the world. You know, when we were on one of those games, Monday, Thursday, or Saturday, they called them game of the world. it was a big deal to be on TV with those. And so in between games, Tom Browning's pitching the second game. I haven't even looked at the lineup. I'm in the lunchroom eating because, it's a long day, doubleheader. I'm just got a sandwich, and Terry Kennedy walks in, and he looks at me, he goes, "Wow, I'm impressed, rookie." And I'm thinking to myself, why? It's just a sandwich, right? It ain't that big a deal. And I said, why? And he goes, "Dude, you're about to start Game of the World, and you can eat, And I was like, "Yeah, it's no big deal." And he walks out, and I was going, whew. I hadn't even looked at the lineup. I didn't think I was starting. And I'd probably been sitting in there about game time had he not said something. And so I'm like, crap. So I go check the lineup, and, I'm starting, and ended up going like 2 for 3 with a single double, had a couple RBIs. And that was a big game for me because it basically solidified me playing against lefties at third base as long as I kept doing the job. So that was kind of funny, though. That was my first experience with playing on, big stage in one of those big games. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Tim fires back with another question we ask here that I haven't asked. Who was the toughest pitcher you faced, and who was the pitcher that when you faced him, it was fun because you knew you owned him?
Well, I can tell you without a doubt, and I don't even have to think about it. I always tell everybody, if I needed a base hit to save my life, I'll face anybody that's ever pitched in major leagues or minor leagues. Just don't put Ramon Martinez on the mound, Pedro's brother. He never did as much as Pedro, but that son of a gun, he threw 94 to 96, 7 miles an hour. Terrible breaking balls. His changeup came out of his hand, looked that big. He threw a curveball that looked just like this to me. I loved curveball and changeups, but he never threw them over the plate. He would throw it, and they're like over my head. And I'm like, just please throw that somewhere around the plate so I can swing at it. Because almost every time I faced him, I'd get ahead 2-0, 3-1. And then I'm like, well, I'm done. I said, I can't see his fast. I couldn't pick his fastball up until it was halfway home. And the ball sometimes would run in, sometimes would cut away. And when you guys throwing 94 to 7 miles an hour and you can't pick it up till it's halfway home,
you're done for.
I wasn't fast enough and couldn't. I just wasn't hitting. And I'll tell you another funny story with Will Clark. That same in '89, Will Clark's going for the batting title. He ended up hitting like 333. Gwen may have beat him by like 10 points, maybe in the end. But going into the last like 8 games, 4 games in LA and 4 in San Diego, they were neck and neck. And Ramon was a September call-up. Now, I'd faced him the year before in AA. Now, I know, lights in AA aren't like Los Angeles, right? I mean, we're in San Antonio, and they got like little bug lights up there. And we have our team meeting, and everybody's like, hey, anybody know who this starting pitcher is, Ramon Martinez? And so I give them a scouting report, kind of like what I just told you. I said, it looks like he just comes right over the top and flips it. And I said, but he throws hard, 94 to 97. I said, his curveball and changeup really aren't that great. I said, but what makes him tough is you just can't pick his fastball up. He throws it somehow. It's almost like out of his jersey. And of course, Will, he pops off as usual. Well, about the second, after about 2 at-bats of getting fisted and not hitting anything, Will comes back to the dugout and he's hollering, geez, you just can't see the ball off that son of a gun. And I'm like, I told you that, you dumb, And
you can say whatever you want on here. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right. Well, I proceeded to call him a dumbass and say, I told you that. And, but, Will was a lot better hitter than me, and he just assumed that I'll see it. But anyways, not a question. That guy, I never want to see him. Tom Browning is a guy I loved hitting off against. I wish I could remember a guy, Steve Wilson with the Cubs.
Okay.
Left-hander with the Cubs. He pitched probably 4 or 5 years. And Dennis Cook. Dennis Cook was an old teammate of mine with the Giants. And I just wore him out. I love Cookie. That's someone going to pitch like, I think 12, 13, 14 years in the big leagues. And he didn't have anything. I didn't think. But Cookie wasn't scared. He'd come right at you with that 88, 89
came
mile
out
an hour
there
fast.
and run it in, run it out, run it all over the
Yeah.
place. I remember him.
Yeah, loved him. And I just wore him out. And being ex-teammates, that was fun because I got to give him some crap about that.
For sure. Dude, that's awesome.
I'll tell you. Well, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to tell you, about the Thursday night game, a funny story my rookie year. Just a few weeks after that game, we're at home playing the Cubs. Another Thursday night game of the world. We're on national TV with, who was it, Al Michaels and Jim Palmer, whoever it was then. And I have the best game for the Giants. Steve Wilson was pitching for the Cubs, and I think I was like 3 for 3 off of him with a single, double, triple, and about 4 RBIs. And after the game, I'm going to get interviewed on national TV. All right. First time ever. And the wind in Candlestick is howling. And if you've never been in Candlestick, you don't understand. It's howling. All right. And all I have is a little earpiece and a microphone. I can't hear a word. I can hear them. I can hear somebody talking. I can't understand a single word. And I'm sitting there like this. And I think I must have had maybe it might have been a single ear. No, it couldn't have been a single ear because I could have heard that. I don't remember what I had in my ear, but the mic must have been somehow either attached or somebody holding. And I'm doing like this, holding my ears, trying to keep the wind out, trying to hear. And all of a sudden that light goes red. I'm on national TV. I don't know how many, several million people probably watching, big game. And They start asking me questions and I can't hear them. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, what do I do? And I could hear about every third word. And so I was like, guys, obviously you can see the garbage flying around behind me. I said, it's so windy. I can't hear hardly anything you guys are saying, but I heard this and this. I think you may be asking about that. And I got through it, but oh my God, the first time I get interviewed and I can't hear a single word and I'm scared to death, almost peeing in my pants and just trying not to make a fool of myself. So I always thought that was pretty funny.
That's an awesome story. I love that one. So you've come across it a couple times talking about today's game, things going on. I'll bring it up, especially since we've had so much Will Clark talk. Did you see the interview they had with him when it came to talking about today's shift, when he said today's big league hitters just flat out suck?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I couldn't agree more. They either suck or they just don't care or don't know enough about baseball to do like Will did in that game. And I partially think it's really they don't understand the game anymore. When I was doing the games here with the Wahoos, I'm telling you, I did them for about 5 years. And the last 4 years, I haven't done them. They quit doing TV games. And it was so frustrating. I had to tell my partner, I said, look, you got to help me out here. If I'm being too negative, we're not the home team's paid broadcasters, but this is our home team. So, I mean, I can point out stuff, but don't let me get too negative. But it was so frustrating watching these young players play. I mean, they didn't even know little stuff like you don't make the first or third out at third base. I mean, I remember watching the catcher with bases loaded, no outs in the third inning, hit one in the gap, get thrown out at third base by 10, 15 feet for the first out. And you're just like, dude, I mean, little stuff like that. And I think they just don't, I don't think they teach. And I know the analytics and all this has changed somewhat, but we honestly, if we were up by 3 or 4 runs in the last inning, I'm telling you, a guy would lead off with a solo home run. We were like, great, that's a rally killer. That is, these teams don't understand. I don't know if you watched the game the other night, Mississippi State, night before last. The guy, they were down by 4 runs in the 8th inning or 7th inning. Leadoff walk up by 4 runs. Next guy, home run. 2 more base hits, another home run. Now they're up 5-4. But they did it by getting base runners. And we were taught early on. Jim Lefevre, an old Dodger, he was our minor league director when I signed. Instruction league or something, he'd get the box score out. Now, I don't know about now. I haven't looked at it in years. But back then, he'd get the box score out every day in instructional league. And he'd read it to us. Cincinnati beat whoever 9-4. Cincinnati scored 6 runs in the 3rd inning or whatever. And he showed us that the winning team usually the majority of the time scored more in 1 inning than the other team does the entire game. And what he was pointing out is to our pitchers and our team, same way, like you get a double play ball, get the lead runner. Don't do something stupid. You know, if you bobble it, don't on trying to get a double play, then throw it out into, left field or right field, trying to hurry it to get the double play. And then don't give them a big inning. And he was teaching pitchers. You can give up 4 or 5 solo home runs in a game and still have a chance to win. You give up one 3-run home run, you're more than likely going to lose because you're going to give up some other runs. And today's players, and teams, they either suck or just I don't get it. You're down by 4 or 5 runs in the 9th inning. You can hit one over the lights on top of over the state, the roof in Detroit or wherever. Who cares? It's 1 run, and the other team is happy. They're putting a shift on you because you're either too dumb or too crappy a hitter to just slap. I can hit a weak ground ball to second base right now. I'm 56 years old.
Yeah,
that doesn't take much talent.
Flick the wrist and snap it over there.
I'd be trying to.
It's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me. I pitched, but I got recruited as much as I did as a pitcher, as a hitter going into college. If you can't control the bat, it blows me away that there's guys that don't understand how to control the bat and hit a ball. I mean, just call where they're going to hit it and hit it there. We don't see the situational hitting behind the runner, moving a guy over. We've lost all those human elements of the game, and it's become an individual game, which blows my mind because you've taken one of the greatest team sports there is and turned it into, hey, look at me, I'm an individual game. We got 9 guys stepping to the plate. They're all individuals, worried about, hey, what they're doing, not about if the team's winning or losing. It blows my mind. I
couldn't agree more. And what makes that so dumb in baseball, and I've said this for years, the teams, especially these teams that go out. I mean, look at Philadelphia signing Harper. The reason baseball is different is because in basketball and football, your superstar player, you can put the ball in his hands every play on offense. He can touch the ball. In baseball, the best player on the team only gets to hit 1 time around the lineup.
He might get up there 4 times.
Exactly. So you can sign him, but he can't do anything about the game. The best starting pitcher only gets to pitch every 5 days. So in baseball, that's why it always was the ultimate team sport, because the superstars can't control the offense every time, they get the ball, and it's a different sport that way. And so, and not being able to, playing second base was my favorite. Man, I love second base. There was nothing I liked more than waiting on that throw from short or second or third, and that runner coming down at me, and I could just feel it coming. But I practiced it, and I was, not bragging, but I was good at that. And it was so much fun trying to catch that ball and get rid of it and him not be able to get me. Yeah. Now they can't even get you or run over you and stuff. And you can't run over the catcher. Now, sooner or later, I think they're going to outlaw or throw pitchers out that hit batters, and they always, he's trying to ruin my career.
It feels like it's getting that way.
It
No,
is.
it really does. We've taken away the inside corner. As soon as we have guys throw inside, both benches get warned. It's kind of the ultimate shit show if you're a pitcher, And I'm going to bring this up. We watched Max Scherzer in the whole instant the other night. I don't know if you've seen that.
I did.
But, he's out there. He gets checked once. Okay. He gets checked the second time. Okay. They said they're going to do that as farther you get. But now we got Joe Girardi trying to game the system. Knows he can slow the pace of play, mess with the guy because it's only supposed to be in between innings. And we know Joe Girardi does this stuff. There's no gamemanship there on his part. He's doing what he has to do to win. And right now, his team, they flat out suck.
Yeah.
Well, he ain't pulling his weight with the amount of talent he's got. So he's doing what he can to try to get that extra win, get up in Max's head. And that was a shit show. That's embarrassing for baseball.
Well, it is. And I've been saying this, that I think it's going to come full circle eventually for this reason. And this is how dumb. And I'll tell you this, I don't know how this Manfred or whatever still has his job as commissioner of baseball. That guy knows less about baseball than I think anybody I've ever known in the game. But here's how dumb Major League Baseball is being right now. All right. They talk about this analytics and how much better, that is. Well, what has it caused? These hitters suck. Just like Will Clark said, they don't get base hits. 2 strikes. They don't care if they strike out. So what are we seeing? Look at all the no hitters this year, right? Look at all the 20 strikeout games this year, teams, just so many strikeouts. Well, what's that doing? It's making the game terrible to watch for the fans. Chicks dig the long ball, right? But not when there's 3 a game and nothing else exciting happens. So that is not good for the game. So what are they doing now? They're instead of looking at what's causing it, the bad direction of the offenses, and now they're trying to blame it on the pitchers with having substance on their hands. They've always used pine tar. They've always had sticky stuff on them. That's not changing. It's been around. But if you think that's the root cause, then that just shows how out of touch Major League Baseball really is.
Yeah, it really is. Because we flat out touched on it. You see a whole defense play on one half of the field, and guys don't hit the other way.
Don't even try.
If you don't have guys that can drop a bunt when there's nobody on the left side of the field to get a hit and walk down to first base, who cares if a pitcher's got something on his fingers? Because even with something on his fingers, you can bunt a ball and walk down to first base and get there all day. Hell, you could bunt a ball into short left field or slap a ball into short left field and get a double.
Yeah. They don't even try. That's
all day, and nobody tries.
Yeah. I'll tell you another difference in the game, and you don't see guys. And when you look at some of the stats with Tony Gwynn, man, it's a shame that Tony's passed away. But tell you another funny story, and a lot of these are all my rookie year. But he was just amazing hitter. Mm-hmm. I was out early one day watching Tony Gwynn take batting practice in San Diego. And this dude is bam, bam. He is hitting ball after ball after ball, not weakly, line drives. Within 3 feet of the third base foul line, just peppering, just staying inside the ball and just bam, just hitting bullets down the third base line. And I'm just sitting there watching. And a funny story, I got called up for 10 days, and you would think in the major leagues now, I'm sure these days it's not quite like this, but in the minor leagues back then, I bought my own bats in the minor leagues that year because you get so few. You don't even get like 24 bats. You don't get hardly anything. So I had ordered some bats in the minor leagues myself and just figuring, look, this is my career. For a couple $100, I'm going to buy the bats I want and have some bats. Well, I get called up to the major leagues. They haven't come in yet. So I get up to the big leagues. Well, I liked a small bat. I like the 33, 32 ounce bat. I like the short bat. Mm-hmm. And well, not a lot of hitters use that. Nobody on the Giants had anything. Chris Spire had 33.5. So I borrowed a few of his. Not only he taught me how to do his job, I took his job. I even used his bats. But so we would go in to play other teams, and Dusty knows everybody. So we'd go into Cincinnati, and he knew Ken Griffey Sr. used a short bat, so he'd snag a few from, Senior, and so we go into San Diego, and Dusty told me that Tony Gwynn's going to give me a couple of his bats. Now they turned out to not even be useful. Tony Gwynn swung a 32-inch bat, 32 inches. But Dusty told me, he said, but he's not going to give them to you until, the last day, until after we're leaving. He's not going to give them to you so you can get base hits against them with them. So I'm playing third base that day that I'm out there, and we have this lefty on the mound, Trevor Wilson. And Trevor just threw what we call a lead pipe. He threw hard, but his ball sank and ran. Just a heavy ball. All right, he just wore out lefties. So Tony Gwynn's up, and I'm playing him off the line a little bit, and he gets 2 strikes on him, gets 0-2. And I was sitting there, because we had a scouting report where I was supposed to play, and it just went off in my head. I was going, I sat there watching that son of a gun just bam, 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 and just peppering that third base line. And I said, man, off Trevor, I think he's, so I scooted over and played him almost like a straight up lefty or right-hander. And he takes a ball and just smokes one. I mean, it hits about a foot fair, about maybe 5 feet in front of the third base, the bag, slicing away. And I catch this ball about 3 or 4 feet in foul territory, about 10 feet behind the bag. Now I'm probably 8 to 10 feet in foul territory now, but it was a line drive bullet, one hopper. And I one thing I did have, I couldn't run and stuff, but I had a hose. And so I plant and I throw him out. And the next day during batting practice, after they finish and we're coming out, and I think I was playing the next day, I think because Bruce Hurst or somebody was pitching. And so I'm hitting early in the lineup and BP, and he walks by me, and Tony, he comes over and he goes, Lit. He goes, did you catch that ball I hit last night in foul territory? And I said, yeah, I did, Tony. And he's like, son of a bitch or whatever. He's cussing at me. He goes, what the hell are you doing playing me over there? He goes, you can forget about getting those bats. and I said, but he was being serious. He's like, what are you doing? And I said, Tony, I was out there early watching you take batting practice. I said, hell, I saw you hit about 20 in a row in batting practice, just like that one. And he goes, well, hell, he goes, well, good job then. He goes, you'll get the bats tomorrow after the game. And he kind of just slapped me on the back and said, good job. And that was pretty cool because, I mean, I don't care what anybody says. He's one of the best hitters ever. And I just kind of had a feeling, just went with my gut, moved over and robbed him of what should have been an easy, guaranteed double. I mean, because a lefty hitting it down the third base bag, one hot bullet, and I catch it in foul territory. I should have never been playing there. But anyways, that was a pretty neat moment.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all great stories. So do you have a great story for us? Crazy time on the road, minor league or big leagues? Just one of those stories that sticks out to you that you're like, wow, is this really happening right now?
I'll tell you that year in 89, I hate to, geez, that's almost all my stories are 89. It just so many things happened that year. We won so many games. The starters started calling the bench the Killer Bees that year with me and Ernie Riles and Ken Oberkfell and Donnell Nixon. And I mean, we just got put in the game, and Chris Spire at the end of the year. And man, we just came through so much that year. I mean, it was just a magical season. We were, I think, down 7 or 8 runs in Cincinnati in August or September, might have been late August. and Roger basically yanked all the starters out and put us in about the 5th inning. We came back and won it, scored like 5 runs off of Charlton and Dibble in the 9th inning to win that game.
Nice.
Games like that. I tell you, I'll tell this story. This is one of my best stories all this year. Most people forget that's the year Dave Dravecki came back from cancer.
Right.
And, I get asked all the time when I travel and speak, I've got my World Series ring on. I don't wear it a lot, but when I travel and speak, I do. And when they hear the story, they'll ask me, what's your greatest memory? And most of them, assume it's hitting a home run in the World Series, which was pretty awesome, obviously. But honestly, that's not even close. That year, watching Dave Dravecki come back from cancer, August 10th, 1989, he started in Candlestick Park against the Reds. I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday day game. We got 50,000 people there because Dave's starting. He was told 8, 9, 10 months earlier he would never pitch again. They removed a cancerous tumor about the size of my fist out of the back of his left arm. They could have found that tumor anywhere else in his body. It typically wasn't a type cancer that kills you. I don't remember what kind it was, doesn't matter, but it wasn't typically a life-threatening type cancerous tumor. And if they hadn't found it in the back of his left arm, he'd probably been fine, pitched another 10 years. I mean, the dude was tough. He didn't have the best stuff, but that dude was a gamer. But he started August 10th, pitched 8 innings, gave up 1 run, got the win. And I can tell you, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I get goosebumps right now, and I get them every time I tell the story. Every time he left the dugout, he got a standing ovation. And my agent came in town with some friends of his from Fresno, California, just to see the game. After the game, we went out in San Francisco downtown and had a few drinks at a couple places, had a nice dinner. Everywhere we went, it was Dave Dravecki. Every table you walked by, it was just buzzing. Did you see? And so, to tell how awesome that was. But, you talk about one thing that I remember from that year I'll never forget was, unfortunately, August 15th in Montreal, in the 5th inning or 6th inning, we were again up 3-1, and he threw a pitch to, I think it was Tim Raines, and his arm snapped. And, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was like hearing a baseball bat snapped in half and watching him roll.
I remember that. It gave me the chills thinking about that again, because I remember seeing that and just it was so heartbreaking.
Dude, it was so bad. And then he goes to the hospital. We had a nice little group of Christians. I mean, the whole team was close knit, but we had a group of us: Dave Dravecki, Bob Nepper, Scott Garrelt, Brett Butler, Jeff Brantley, myself. We had a little Bible study group, and we waited up that night for Dave to get back from the hospital, and we sat in his room from about midnight till 6 a.m. And it's without a doubt as bad as that game was, and watching him go through that, it was one of the greatest nights I ever had playing ball, because we sat around with him for 6 hours, and not one single time did he complain. His career is over at this point now. I mean, should have been over before. Now there's no doubt. And to sit there and watch this guy, how he handled this, never complained, never whined. And it was really awesome. At the 20-year reunion, we all went out to dinner one night and went to Skoma's down on the wharf. And it was one of the places we used to go to. And Dave was bragging all night about, he helped us when it was basically, he was taking credit for, not really, but, he was having a little fun with taking credit for us winning the division that year, because we won it by 2 games and he was 2-0. And so that was pretty cool. But yeah, man, there were just so many memories that year. And they flew us out for our 20-year reunion in 2009. And at that point, we were still the big dogs, right? Because we were the only team to make the World Series in 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, from '09 to 19, they won 3 World Series. So we were
every
like,
other year.
yeah, so we were like, well, at least they flew us out for one. Now we're going to be like, like who cares, right? But
Yeah.
in 19, I tell you what, it was so awesome. The Giants flew us out again, had a big deal for us on the field. But what was more fun was like that picture with Mitch. We had these little team get-togethers at night on top of the hotel, had a little rooftop bar, and but hearing management with the Giants that are still there. Bob Lurie, our team owner, was there. And these guys were talking. They were like, we've had 3 World Series teams winning World Series since, you guys. But one of the things they said, but you guys are still, not as an organization, but these guys as individuals, they were like, but you guys are still my favorite team. Just there was something about that team was just a family, and it was just special, and never forget it. And just, man, it was awesome. I wish every minor league player could experience just, that call up and playing in the big leagues, because, we all dreamed it since we were little kids, and it was pretty amazing to reach that level.
That's great. So what is one piece of advice you would give anyone out there, any mom and dad or any kid that's working their way at any sport, not just baseball, but at any sport, chasing after their dream, chasing after their goal, that you've learned along the way that you wish you would have known when you were their age?
I wouldn't say there's anything that I wish I had known, but without a doubt, the easiest thing, there's no question what I tell them is, listen, don't give up. Don't ever give up. If you want it bad enough, I'm living proof. Now, you've got to have a little athletic ability, but I'm 6 foot tall. When I got, in college, I graduated high school, I was 6 foot 165. When I started my senior year, I was 155. But what I did, and out of high school, I wasn't drafted. I didn't have any major. Mississippi State actually asked me to walk on. My family didn't have that kind of money. Only scholarship offers I had were a couple of local junior colleges. After my freshman year, Auburn offered me a full ride. There was talks I might get drafted. It didn't happen, but they, at least they were starting to talk about me. But every year I just kept working, and I kept getting just a little bit better. And all the guys that I grew up with and played against that didn't work quite as hard, eventually that catches up to you, unless you're just some superstar like, a Ken Griffey athletically like that. But I tell people this, I got cut my 9th grade year from the JV baseball team. And I started every varsity game my 10th grade year. It's the only thing me and Michael Jordan have in common. But honest to goodness, I decided that I was just going to work as hard as I could. And baseball is the greatest sport in the world. I don't care what anybody says, because I could have worked. Well, I couldn't have worked 10 times as hard, but I could have somehow worked harder at basketball or football. I love those sports too. But there's no way my athletic ability would have ever allowed me to compete against those athletes. And because you have to be so much bigger, stronger, and faster than I was. Baseball, a young guy like me that was good in high school, not great, got better in junior college every year, even in the minor leagues. I just got a little better every year. And just, man, don't give up. Just, if you want it bad enough, you got to put the time in. And if you're a decent baseball player, don't let anybody tell you can't do it. Because when I was in high school, my best friend who was on that Mississippi State team, we were painting houses in the summer for cash. And I don't know what we were talking about, but he was about to go to Mississippi State a year ahead of me, and he was going to go into computer engineering. And we were talking. I said, I'm going to play Major League Baseball. And he was laughing. But there was no, it wasn't like he was like crazy. Heck, anybody that knew me at that point would have probably laughed saying that. But I just believed it and wanted it and worked hard enough, and still got a little lucky. Minor league baseball, there's probably been hundreds, if not thousands, of minor league players that were good enough that just never got a chance. We're in the wrong organization, behind the wrong players. But so a little bit of luck, but just a ton of hard work, and just don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And I just want to say, Greg, man, thank you. You've been an amazing interview tonight. Everybody in here has had a great time. Your stories are top notch. This is what it's all about. And I love when I have guys on here that pull back the curtain, tell how it is, shoot straight forward, and give everybody the stories they don't ever get to hear or don't get to know, and that's what this is all about, and everyone gets to see that, we're just everyday guys too. We just got to play a game for a living, and it's a lot of fun. And that's what makes it special. That's why I enjoy doing this. Not only does it give me my baseball fix back that I miss so much, but I get to shoot the shit with great guys like you, hang out with the rest of the guys that come and watch this, and talk about two of the greatest things there are in America, bourbon and baseball. To me, it's win-win all the way across the board. So
it is. And
I just want to say thanks again, man. This has been amazing.
Well, it's my pleasure. And just all you guys watching, just appreciate it. I wasn't a big superstar, but I managed to, have a couple of big moments. But one thing just can't stress enough. Anybody out there watching, if you've got kids, man, don't push them too hard in this game with all this travel ball. I hate this stuff. They are killing the game. That's where this pitch count comes in. It's not that's not what's killing people's arms, throwing too many pitches. It's because they're doing it year round from the time they're 8 years old until 20 years old and in college, and they're killing the sport for these young kids. If they're not having fun, it doesn't matter. And I know a lot of them want to be out there, but I see these things at 8, 10 years old playing summer ball in June here in Florida. And on Sundays in a tournament, they might have to play 4 games to win the championship when they've already played probably 3 or 4 the couple of days before that. And then in one day in June have to play 4. I don't care who they are. Nobody as a kid loved baseball more than me. And I can tell you without a doubt, I would hate that. And don't kill your kids doing that to them. If they're not having fun, ultimately, they're going to quit playing the sport. And I'm thankful that I didn't grow up in an age with this crap travel ball. And I have dads all the time going, Greg, I need you to talk to my wife. She doesn't understand it. And then they start bringing up travel ball, and I'm like, you don't want, if I promise you. But yeah, you guys watching, if you got kids, man, get them involved. Baseball is the greatest sport in the world. But God, get a grip on this travel ball and quit killing these kids.
That's awesome. And I appreciate that one big time. Hey guys, for anybody else that wants to jump in and do the after hours after we close the interview down here, we'll stay on for a couple minutes and then we'll just go back behind the scenes and shoot the shit like we always do. I just want to give a big thank you to Greg. Thank you for coming on, taking your time to spend time with all of us tonight. Our sponsors tonight have been Storytime Distillery. Hit them up on Instagram at Storytime Distillery, as well as on Facebook. And our other sponsor tonight is Ameriprint Plus. For all your screen printing and illustration needs, check out at Ameriprint Plus on Facebook and Instagram. Once again, thank you, Greg, for coming on and spending time with us tonight. We appreciate everything, and have a good one.
My pleasure, buddy. And heck, I'll be happy to do it again. I enjoyed it, and I've still got a few more stories. So
hey, I'm all for it. I will hit you up. I will hit you up probably tomorrow and get you booked back on here for another week, and we'll make it a good time, man. For sure.
Thanks,
Thank
buddy.
you so much,
All
Greg.
right. See you guys.
Have a good night, Greg. All right, everybody. I'm going to keep this up here for like another 5 minutes before we jump back to the other side. Thanks for everybody for coming on, having great questions, just really adding to what was an absolute killer stream tonight. So thank you guys so much. It was amazing. And look at this guy who's in seventh heaven. I mean, I don't think I can top this. The only way to be able to top it for you, Mr. Stahl, is to get Will to throw himself on my show.
Can you do that?
I'm working on it. I got some people. I'm actually working on it, my friend.
I might be your best friend.
I'm working on it, man.
Dude, that was awesome. I'm still drinking out of the same bottle I started with. I normally
normally get up and change around.
Yeah, I didn't.
Dude, I was having so much fun. I still have my first class here.
Dude, I mean, I didn't go that far.
So
yeah, I didn't go that far. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get Will on here, bro. That's the only way to beat this one.
I'm working on it. Oh, look at this guy. I recognize that.
Boy, the stream goes down
Ben.
fast. First me, then Ben.
Hey, Troy, I hear you there, man. I will use anything I've got to get that done, my friend. That is for sure.
So,
It'd
like,
be great to get him on.
The thing I think is funny, just like hearing the stories about Will Clark, is so, like, I mean, he was like my idol, like in junior high school, middle school, right? Whatever. And, like you never meet him. You're always afraid of meeting like that hero that you had. And so I met Carl Mecklenburg, who's a Denver Bronco linebacker.
Yeah.
He was like my favorite Bronco. And we did this event with one of Tim Evans' focus customers or partners. Anyway, and I met him. He was like there to sign autographs, and he was like a D-bag. And I was like, dude, like, what a dick. Like, he really is like, oh, I'm Carl Mecklenburg. Mm-hmm. And so to hear that, like, other people are like that, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, man.
To hear that, like,
you start playing some of those sports at high levels and stuff, and there's some people, man, that's their total shtick, man. That's what gets them through it, and that's what carries them through.
Like Will Clark still had some years left, man, and he decided he wanted to retire so he could spend time with his autistic son, man. Like, that's,
it's very admirable, and at the same point, he didn't want to play in fucking Cleveland, man. They suck then.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, nobody wants to go to Cleveland. Sorry for anybody that lives in Cleveland. I love you, though. I don't want to go to LA either if Ruben's watching.
Hey, guys, I'm keeping it on for another 2 minutes for anybody that wants to jump on the backside, shoot the shit, talk what's going on, what's coming up.
Ryan Sandberg would be a good guest, dude. Holy shit. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Hey, I might get some Illinois folks jumping on for a change besides Tim Evans.
I know, right? Never let a talent or a hobby become your personality. Yeah, that's true, Aiden, actually.
There you go. Troy had a good comment there. He wanted to retire a 300 hitter too.
I believe
that's something that's run away from Albert this year. Heading into this year, he was still at that 299 mark, hoping to push it back over 300. So he hasn't.
So what? It's Albert, and who is like? There's one person pushing the 3,000 hits now.
Albert's over 3,000 hits.
Yeah, Albert's it's like 3,200. I mean, it only took him 23 years, right? Like, how long has Albert been in? It's like 20-something years, right?
Yeah, but look at the amount of walks he has.
Yeah, I mean, all those intentional walks he had.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like that's I just think that 3,000 hits now is something that you're just not going to see anymore.
It's going to be harder as guys lag behind before they get brought up and stuff.
Well, you don't have the length of careers that you used to have where you can be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like And like I go back to that Todd Helton, was a 325 hitter, 12
Yeah.
years of bigs, and he had 2,100 hits. Like,
mm-hmm. You can say all you want about Pujols and the decline and everything else, but at the end of the day, when you take a look at his stats, the man has 1,338 walks and only has 1,329 strikeouts.
Yeah,
He's
but
that's still in a decline. Still in a decline. Is carrying
that
it.
stat's a little deceptive, though, right? Because how many of those were intentional back in the day?
How many of those were intentional?
Yeah.
Well, funny that you ask. 313.
Only 313?
Only 313. So he's got 1,000 regular, 1,015 regular.
Dude, that's pretty good.
That's
pretty good.
Not too shabby.
But that is like, you think about it, though, that's like 1 out of every 4 walks were intentional.
Hey, Tim Evans, come hang out, man. Jump on the backside. Come tell us some Scottie Pippen stories.
But I also feel like he liked playing the game, too. Like, that's why he's still here, and I kind of like that. Even though he was DH for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, Troy, I don't think Yadi's going to make it either, man. He's had a hell of a career, but I don't think he's going to quite get there. He's running down at this point.
I think
unfortunately, Miggy's the same way. Yeah, is he only 100 away?
I think he's 100 hits away.
Man, that's still going to be a push right now, though. It's still going to be a big push. Let me look at this. I want to know. Yada, Molina's only got 2,048 hits. He's not getting there, guys. That's 1,000 away, and he's 40 years old.
Oh yeah, he's not getting there.
What's up, Mike?
How are you?
Fantabulous. I just think it's funny. I'm always pushing these guys for the dirty stories. I'm hoping for that raunchy, gets drunk, tells the real raunchy baseball stories. And this guy comes out, awesome interview, comes out with the Bible study group.
Miguel Cabrera is at 2908.
That just took all the wind out of my sails.
There were reasons I did not ask the Lord Schlong lingerie question or the Keith Hernandez mustache ride question or a couple of the other loaded questions that popped in there. So
you could have tipped off to that.
So the top 3 active players are Albert Pujols at 3271, Miguel Cabrera at 2908.
Miggy will make it. He'll truck through this season. He'll play part of next season just to get that 3,000, and you're going to see Detroit do with him what the Angels just did with Pujols.
And then Kano he's in 3rd right now for active, according to Google.
He's not really active. He's just suspended.
Yeah, but he's at 26-24.
Yeah.
So and he's 38. So I doubt he'll make that shit.
Yeah.
Is he 38? Is that right?
He is now. Yeah. There's Tim Evans with that picture with the digit man himself, Scottie Pippen. Tim Evans getting a bottle autographed by Scottie Pippen in his new bourbon brand Digits.
Is Pippen the one that bought that airplane and didn't know that it didn't fly?
Yes. They needed a pilot. Yeah.
He got screwed over by an investor.
Yeah, he bought it and it wasn't operable fully. So he spent $9 million on the damn thing and it wouldn't fly.
No, it was an investor that a money manager guy that swindled about $20 million worth of his money. He ended up getting some of it back.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because that's crazy, man.
Yeah, Scotty got ripped off quite a few times in his career.
Dude, I'm on this Russell's kick. I'm going to have Ben's Russells next then.
Did you manage to get Jason's today? I didn't get it. It was sold out by the time I tried to get it.
Oh, really? So that one, the channel actually bought one for Adam and I. That was the first first time the channel's bought anything for us.
Okay, cool.
So we decided it was one thing we get to finally do it after the work you put in.
Nice.
I should have gotten it just because my fingers hurt from all this shipping I've got to do all the time.
Bottle chugging is work.
Not the streaming part. The streaming part's the fun, easy shit, right? It's
it's the coordinating. It's the I understand.
Yeah, it's like I've got my freaking office looks like a shipping freaking.
Yeah, that's what I was doing earlier tonight. I got a bunch of stuff packed up here.
And then I poured 20 samples.
Only 20? Dude, that should be 24. You were chugging on that bottle yourself.
It should have been 25, but apparently those little 1 ounce samples are a little more than 1 ounce. So everybody
that's why you use a 1 ounce jigger.
Yeah, I didn't use a jigger. I should have done it. I was like, Adriana would be so disappointed in me. But like in fairness, if you do that, like those 1 ounce sample bottles are going to have like a gap at the top like this, and I would just feel kind of cheesy about that. So Adam and I will not get a sample of our store pick that we did for the channel.
That's bullshit.
No.
You need to take a syringe and suck a little out of each one and make 2 more samples out of it.
Dude, I had to do that just to get the 20th one done.
Then keep mine.
No, fuck you. I'm not going to do that. Dude, you guys support the channel. You support what we do. We just got a Russell's pick. I'm not upset. I got blue freaking 4-gate all day. It's all good.
Gotta have one to drink with everyone else.
Yeah.
I'll send you 4.
Yeah, I'm good.
Keep a pour for yourself, and I'll send it to somebody else because I got one coming.
You got one of the seal box?
Jason's.
Oh yeah, no, this is the seal box pick.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the Russell pick.
Yeah, no, it's seal box pick. No, it's good. We're not upset. We're not unhappy. We both have one of the Jason picks, so we'll pop one of those when you guys are doing yours. It's cool. Aiden, no, we're not. I'm not asking for anybody to not get one. I want everybody that won one to get it.
Yeah. Keep it.
Ben's going to break your balls. All right, guys, last call. If you're coming in on the backside, you have. Ooh, there's Ken. There's Ken. Oh, you got it. You got the typewriter.
What the hell?
Oh, dude.
Wait, is that a coffee pot?
That is a fully functional Lego typewriter. It is all Legos, and it's a fully functional working typewriter. Yes.
Hey, if you guys aren't subscribed to Scotch Down Under, make sure you do that.
Yeah, man. This is going to be sick.
Oh, I'm so jealous right now, dude. So jealous.
Are you streaming?
All right, guys, I'm going to close down the stream. Thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. If you want to jump on in a minute, you regret not jumping on yet, you miss us after we're gone, hey, the link's pinned up in the chat. So you can always go back to the replay, find it, come on in. We'll be here for a little while, talking fun stuff, talking some Lego typewriters, some Legos, some Scottie Pippen, some seal box picks. Dude, look at you. You got all the fun stuff coming.
Got a little free
McKellen. You got lots of fun stuff to talk about. Next week, I've got Scott Albin coming on, former minor league pitcher. In 2 weeks, I have former Colorado Rockies catcher J.D. Klosser, who is also the Atlanta Braves minor league roving catching instructor or coordinator, coming on as well to the show. So that's who we got in the next 2 weeks. If you haven't already, go check me out over on Instagram at Big League Bourbon. I've got distilleries coming on for the next 5 weeks on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. for Instagram Live. So you might want to come check that out as well. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a good night.